welcome to W.I.S.E. I'm Kata Edwards Pierre, and of course, this space is about being well, being informed, being safe, and being empowered. Today's topic of the spiritual meaning behind what's happening in current times is a huge topic. Lots of people have so many questions. And so we have a wonderful roundtable of special guests that are attending. One sends his regrets, William Paul Young. He may slide in. I don't think so, though, because he's not feeling well. But I'll share what I've actually heard from him in the past in our conversations and True to Soul radio podcasts that we've done together. So I'll start first by explaining how I came to the create the BY space, and then move on to each special guest that will bring a perspective to the spiritual meaning behind current times. Each perspective is quite expansive and varied. So I'm really intrigued about how this conversation is going to go. It's not a scripted thing. This space is totally a tapped in type of conversation. So who knows where it will go. So for me, I work as a life coach. I work as a business person, of course, and a life strategist. And the spiritual aspect of things, I tend to work very intuitively. This BY space was created as a result of working with my True to Soul team and having the idea that the questions that we each have as team members of True to Soul about what to do and where to go and what resources to tap into is the same question that everyone has. So what I've been reaching out to and who I've been reaching out to are people and topics that really, you know, help make us feel grounded, safe, and empowered. So I'll start the floor with Nothabo, since she made her way into the space for first. Dr. Thabo is what I sometimes call her because that's where you can find her, Dr. Thabo. Please take the floor, Dr. Thabo. And if you would like, you can also indicate that little tidbit you talked about with regards to the shack when you told me when you came in the green room. Yeah, you can
Right.
insert that in there as well. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you for the humbling introduction, Keda. My name is Notabo Guguletungube. Notabo means mother, teacher of joy. I'm an international TEDx speaker, a coach, a mentor. I believe that I'm here to use my voice and my story to inspire, to empower, to heal, to enlighten, to educate, and to raise the vibration of the earth. It is my goal that as I show up in the world in my truth, that I'll allow another person to see a piece of themselves in my story and be reminded of what is possible and be reminded too that their words and their thoughts have the power to shape their destiny and that their pain is their power. Now, earlier on, I was just having a conversation with Keda and we're talking about Mr. Paul. And so actually, I didn't even know that he was going to be one of the people on the special call. And so earlier on in the afternoon, 12 noon, I noticed that he was one of the people who were going to be in this call. And so I say to Kata, oh wow, I didn't know that he was going to be a part of this discussion. And let me tell you why that was a huge divine moment for me. Because in 2017, um, I remember I was trying to get a gift for my boyfriend at the time, and I didn't know what to get. And that was the book that I saw first when I walked into one of the bookstores here. And I still haven't watched the movie. I'm yet to, but I did read the book, and I thought that was beautiful that I've already had that encounter with him earlier on in 2017. So this was going to be definitely a full circle moment for me.
Mm, thank you. Thank you so much. And I can't wait for you to dig into your points with regards to pain and getting through powerfully when we feel that we're living through a traumatic incident. Yeah, I can't wait. Actually, every time I hear you speak, I'm always inspired. So I look forward. I look forward to hearing you speak some more.
Oh.
Kellyanne, Kellyanne, if you would take the floor, please. Heart-driven leadership. I love what you do so much.
Hi everyone. It's a pleasure to be here.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I'm a conscious business strategist and leadership coach that works with the power of intuition and tapping into your unique gifts and passions and being able to bring them fully into your life experience and your career. So, I've been called to empower visionaries to stand up and co-lead movements. So, transform a business into a movement and also redefine the new state of business and leadership. So you can call it Conscious Business 2.0, Conscious Leadership 2.0, which is the state that we're moving into right now. So I believe that the spiritual meaning behind the current times in this present moment is, well, really, it's an awakening of the planet, right? This is a catalyst for a planetary awakening, which we all knew was coming from 2012 essentially onwards. So right now, when I tune into the energy that's taking space on the planet, I would say spaciousness is what's been created for everybody. And if we honor that, it means that we can tune more into our purpose. And then when we get clear with that, and even if you know your purpose, I encourage you to right now tune in more, because there's probably more, right? You're probably being called to do something greater than what you believed. And then once you create that space and tune in, then the next step is to move forward and put it out there. And I really believe that the planet is supporting us in having success now. Even if we've previously put ourselves out there, we're actually supported on so many levels now. So now is the time to do it. Now is the time to be seen, be heard, and be you.
Thank you. Powerful way to end. I find that striving to be authentic is the most powerful space to be in. And I feel that is actually the purpose of us all being here, is to be us as fully as possible. And I'll get into how I met each of you in a minute, because I feel that story is pertinent to what we're about to talk about. It's part of my journey in meeting each of you, which is why I'm so thrilled to have all of you in this space, which leads me to Morgan Earl Smith. If you would take the floor.
Everyone. Yeah, again, my name is Morgan, and I'm a meditation facilitator, but in the area of brainwave entrainment. So brainwave entrainment is a form of technology that is used for people who have a hard time doing traditional meditation. So brainwave entrainment is an easier way of reaching meditative states through using sound in a mathematical manner. So that's what I get into. So originally I was in the business and I started using brainwave entrainment back in 2003, and it absolutely just changed my life. So I ended up leaving the entry business, took a few years off, and then got into community work. And then from there, I started to create my own brainwave entrainment programs and started to use it with my clients that I've been working with. Um, in 2000, and I think it was 2008, when I had my first spiritual awakening, and that kind of changed the course of my life, where I wanted to go deeper with what I wanted to do. So from that point on, I met a guy named Arian Herbert. We wrote a book together in regards to non-duality, and everything kind of changed from there. There's so much more to add, but after that awakening, shortly after I met Kata. So I ran into Kata back in the days. It was a long time ago now when I think about it. It was a while ago, and that's where it all changed. We've done a lot of work together. So, and the work's still continuing. So I'm just proud to be here. To be one of you in this space in this very moment. So.
Thank you so much. I have to say before I go on that there's a poll for you all to fill in, and just feel free to plug your opinion in there. You can do it anonymously. Your questions, please put it into the Q&A. You can also do it anonymously or put your name in there. If you have some feedback that you want to provide to the discussion, feel free to put it into the chat. Just be aware if you're sending it to everyone or if you want to send it to a specific panelist or to myself. There are going to be quite a few different topics that we'll go through here, because spirituality is quite an expansive topic. Now, the way that I met Morgan, it's kind of a funny story, a very quick story. in policing, I worked in different communities, and one of them was up in Toronto, in Scarborough and Malvern specifically, and there was a community meeting. And I saw this man standing there, and I really go with my gut. I really don't often need to know logically why I have to approach people sometimes. I just am called to do it. So I believe I was in uniform, and I started walking
We're
towards
in
him.
uniforms. Oh yeah.
And as you guys can see, Morgan's got big eyes. Like he's just, and when he chooses not to smile and he's just staring at you, you just need to check yourself because he's not playing around. He's just like, why? Why are you walking towards me right now, though? And so by the time I stopped in front of him, he still was not smiling, which made me a little bit discombobulated because when I smile, usually people are like, oh, they smile back. But he wouldn't smile back. He was just kind of like, what? What? So we started to talk. And from that point, as soon as we started to talk, first of all, I sensed a kindred and a kindred spirit. And I learned about the work that he does. I view him as a polymathematician, someone who's very just extensively expansive in his thought and his perception of the world. The God Behind the God is a great piece of work. I have the book, and he's taught me a lot in reflection and what he does. And Kellyanne, it was through the process of me looking to expand True to Soul, looking for a way to clarify the vision, something that's been with me for many, many years. I believe it was in 2018 that I met Kellyanne. That was through someone that I initially touched base with because I wanted to revamp my website. And Kellyanne had a different way of approaching the whole concept of business development. I loved it because it actually reflected back to me. And the reason why I bring up these stories of how we met people, or how I met these wonderful people, is that I was led spiritually. My intuition led me to these people. And if we actually pay attention to our breadcrumbs, wonderful, amazing things happen. And sometimes it doesn't even make sense at the time. When I was doing the business development with Kellyanne Wise, I learned great things about True to Soul through great introspective questions that she gave. And I learned another thing, that business done with a social consciousness and that's heart driven is possible, it's viable. And right now we can see how and why. And that's what we'll be talking about a little bit more. Nathavo, I met through an event that I spoke at, and she was a fellow speaker. And I heard this woman speak. I was like, oh, who's that? And the person that introduced her to the space and ran the event was Barb Takita. And when I spoke with Barb, I knew of Nathabo coming into the space, but had not realized just the charisma and the full story and the spirituality with which she conducts herself, very tapped in. So, and William Paul Young, I put it on social media how I met him. This was years ago, and we haven't actually physically met. We just converse in other ways. But it was because a friend of mine lost his wife. He'd been married for decades, and he lost his wife to cancer. And I was looking for different things, different ways to gift him. And this book literally jumped in my hand. Well, not literally, but it felt like it did. The Shack, off the shelves. It was just after it came out. And so I gifted it to this man, this friend of mine. I had not read it, but then he thanked me for the book and said that he really loved it. And that sent me to reading it. I invited William Paul Young to come up and speak. And his publicist said yes. This was years ago. This was, I don't know, maybe the late 90s, early 2000s. I'm not sure. And years after that, we reconnected through social media. I interviewed him on podcasts for True to Soul Radio. And we've just had amazing conversations and worked on a couple different projects together. So I really love the fact, and I'm grateful for the fact, and I took this extra time to speak because the magnitude of the life that we can live when we actually pay attention to our hunches is immeasurable. And that's why spirituality behind the current times is so important to talk about right now, because it's our opportunity to stand still, be still, and pay attention to what our spirit is trying to tell us. if we felt like what we wanted to do before, what we were passionate about before would not fit into the world, those people I'm calling upon right now, because now is the time. Now is the time to bring forth what you wanted to do before and you thought you couldn't. So on that note, I'm actually going to start off with Kellyanne. I'm already getting some notes, but I'm going to start off with oh, thank you for the notes. Um, I'm going to start off with you, Kellyanne, because you spoke about something very important. That's really key, the being you. Uh, when you say be you, people can be like, what does that mean? Like, what exactly does that mean when you say be you? Can you talk about that a little bit and even maybe share a little bit of your process of bringing people to a space of being authentic and being powerful in that authenticity?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when I say be you, it does mean the authentic you, which I would say even that can fluctuate and look different because there's many aspects to you. So of course you've got your true nature, your spirit, which is obviously eternal, was never created, can never be destroyed, all of those qualities that they speak about in yoga. And so there's that part of you that is your God self, that's a creator, the spiritual part. And then there's the human, the person that has the stories and has the traumas and the conditioning. So really it feels like, to me, if you can really tap into and remember who you really are. My friend Peter, who's on the call, that's his focus, to remind people who they really are, their true self. So when you can tap into that energy and allow that to come out through your own unique expression as you as the human with your own personality, whether that's extroverted, introverted, loud, quiet, whatever your personality is, allow that true God self to come out, then that's your unique expression. And the techniques and the way that I believe is the best way, which helps the mind understand, is focusing on the heart. So there's a saying that I like to repeat to myself, which is quite important, and it's I'm acting on my heart's highest joy, passion, and excitement in every moment without expectations or attachments. So when you say acting on my heart's highest joy, excitement, or passion, it's removing yourself from the mind, from the ego, from the control, and that's tuning into the heart and going, what does my heart want to do now? And that connects you to your spirit.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. I love the fact that, when we think about 7.5 billion, over 7.5 billion different people on the planet, that's 7.5 billion manifestations of a consciousness. It's like 7.5 billion fingers on a hand. That's the way I think about it. And each hand is very unique, right? Um, there's so many methodologies to getting to that truth that you speak of, and so many different words that can take us there, and so many different tools and resources that are available. And what I love is that right now people are really ripe, people are really receptive to finding new tools, and even a combination of tools. What I love about spirituality is that it's expansive. There's no limit. There's so much available in so many ways. And I find that the work, for instance, that Morgan does, thank you very much, Kellyanne, and I'm going to come back actually to a point that you made as well. When it comes to the work that you do, Morgan, one of the reasons I love it so much is that it's continually unfolding. So for someone who says, you know what, affirmations don't work for me, and yeah, I'm just left brained. I can't do that stuff. I can't really talk about heart emotional stuff. I'm not that type of person. What I love about what you do, Morgan, is that you have this mechanism that literally you put these headphones on and you're inducing a certain level of brainwave entrainment and consciousness, I would say, but I'm not sure that that's the correct word or terminology. And that's what intrigued me when I first heard about it. because I was earlier on in the day one of those people that would fall asleep when I meditate. Like guaranteed, if I wanted to sleep, try to meditate, and that's what would happen. But your technology, the energy technology, was one example of brainwave entrainment that allowed me to reach certain levels of brainwave activity to allow for what I'm reaching for when I meditate. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Technology itself,
Energy specifically,
or
and perhaps the technology a little bit, but more so what you do through energy and in real
well,
time with people. Hmm.
well, with with the technology, it's a very simple form of sound physics. It's a combination of two sine tones, and if you have two sine tones that are similar, they're close together in frequency. What happens is in the center of your brain, in the center of your brain, here's a third tone, and that third tone is responsible. That third tone makes a beat frequency from the two tone frequencies. I never explained it properly, but it's the best I could do. So you have two tone frequencies, one in one ear and one in the other ear.
Hmm.
And one is 17 hertz and the one is 16 hertz. The center of your brain will hear a frequency of 1 hertz. So it takes the difference of the two tones when it's playing. With Unity, though, Unity uses more than two tones. Unity uses around, gosh, probably 63 tones. But there are different frequencies. So when I'm designing Unity, it's based off a mathematician's theory of mathematics in regards to the universe. And he has these numbers which are 124875, and 124875 is the algorithm of everything. So if you know how to use those numbers, you can apply it to anything, whether it's to physics, to science, to mathematics, to meditation, to philosophy. It doesn't matter what it is, to computer science. So when you're able to use, when you're able to find the tones uh, that are um, that are complementary to those numbers, that part would take another part of explaining. But as long as you have a certain amount of numbers, if you add those numbers up to a single digit number, as up to one, that would be that would be the tone that you would use, and so on and so on. So they have to match up to this 12475. So when you match those numbers up, you are using the proper, in theory, you're using the proper sounds, which are a variety of different sounds of what the universe is providing.
Mm.
So somehow I figured that out. So I was playing with the math. I was learning the mathematics for about 2 years, and then one day I was working out, and it hit me, and I found a way how to apply it to binaural beats. And when I applied it to binaural beats, everything changed.
Mm.
And so I've been doing that ever since, and it's been advancing ever since. So even as I find that the program is now finished in regards into its development, I'm always finding more ways of using those numbers 12475.
Mhm.
So that's how that comes about. So 12475 is, according to the theory, is supposed to be the fingerprint of God. So it's the mind of God, the fingerprint of God. If you add those numbers up together, you'll get a double-digit number. If you crunch those numbers down, it will come up to the number nine. And nine is supposed to be the mystical number, the mind of God, the mind of the entire universe, and so on and so on and so on. So by using those numbers, and you can use any number, but by using those numbers, it's I guess you can say that you're finding a blueprint to spiritual enlightenment. So I actually have a strong belief that spiritual enlightenment, there is actually a mathematical algorithm to spiritual enlightenment.
Mm.
So that same algorithm, it would be the same algorithm if a guru was passing Shaktipat to one of his devotees. It's the same frequency. Well, there's a variety of different frequencies within that same number pattern. It would be the same frequency, and I believe that it can also be done through sound, just through regular sound. So I found a way to do that. It sounds hard to believe, but I figured it out. So
Not hard to believe at all. And you know what? I have to admit that it's because of my experience with Morgan. Because imagine having some of these conversations about numbers and math like at midnight. I don't know if there were times when we were in the car just like talking about, he would be talking about the math and I'd be, trying to understand it. And then things would land at different times outside of our conversations. And just the path, the spiritual journey has been amazing because I actually understand how math can be seen and in the spiritual world. It's not just a functionality that we learn in school. There's something very, very intrinsic and fundamental to numbers. I find that exciting. And I find it exciting because it's a different approach to spirituality. I grew up in Catholicism. And, when I was in, I wanted to be a nun as a form of escapism from trauma that was happening to me as a kid. I thought if I was the perfect person, stuff would stop. And of course, that's a survival mechanism. That's a way of thinking, isn't it? So in grade 3, when the nun who was teaching the class was talking to us about God and Jesus, and how Jesus came into knowing at a certain point in his very, very young life, I was confused. I thought, how can God not know himself? Jesus is God because in Catholicism, he's part of the Holy Trinity. So how could he not know? And so I put up my hand and I was like, teacher, do you think maybe we think God didn't know, but God knew? That Jesus knew, and we just didn't understand. And she wrote me a new one in the class, grade 3, y'all. And then she took me out of the class and she wrote me another new one. And she said, don't you ever question the Bible, and don't you ever question me. And the blessing in that experience for me was that sent me on an exploration to find different answers and keys everywhere, because I didn't think that the anger that I sensed from this woman was what God was trying to send me, even at that young age. And I agree. I know deeply that when we come into this world, we come in with a very close relationship and understanding and deep knowledge of what's bigger than what we're living, and that all we're looking for is confirmation and affirmation in the world around us. And so when that person, that nun, chose to, you know, project whatever it was that she was going through on me, that started my search and journey for other ways to reach these answers, these spiritual answers. And that's why I get so excited when I meet people like Nothabo and Kellyanne and Morgan, because these are different approaches. There's no one right or wrong way. That's what's so
Yeah.
amazing. That's what's so amazing. Now, Nasabo, when I heard you speak, I was just like, okay, this girl's got something, another path to this spirituality, this journey that we
Yeah.
seek. Yes. And so, when Morgan's talking about coming to that place, I know you get there in your own beautiful way. Can you share some of that, especially when you talk about the pain piece? Because I feel like that was a portal for
Mhm.
you.
Right. Keda, for me, I lost my mother when I was young. I was 14 at the time that she passed away. And it is true that out of pain, something people can age, because it was because of the pain of losing my mother that I made a promise to her to become a doctor when I was back home in Zimbabwe. My last words to her were, Mama, Niletemba, which means, Mama, I'm hopeful. I'll try by all means and I'll strive to be a doctor. Those were my last words to my mother as I was saying my last goodbyes to her. Now, the irony about all of this, also connecting to what you said about you having had the dream of becoming a nun, was that my paternal grandfather's sister was a nun in the Catholic Church.
Mm.
And ever since I was young, she would say to my mother, your daughter is going to be a nun just like me, you know? And of course, my mother didn't have the um, spiritual understanding to what she was seeing and to what she was speaking to, right?
Mhm.
So, and my mother's dream for my life was that I would become a doctor. So it only made sense and it felt right that as I was saying my last goodbyes to her, I would make that promise to her to become a doctor and live up to the great dream that she envisioned for me ever since I was a young girl. Now, it's crazy because my mother's dream for my life and my great auntie's grandmother's dream for my life emerged in such a beautiful way. So it was the promise I made to my mother that served as a guiding light in my journey, leading me to experiencing a spiritual awakening, leading me to recognize the nun in me. Of course, I'm doing it in style, in a different way,
Mhm.
you know. But moving from Zimbabwe and then moving to Canada, went through so many different challenges, living in community housing, subjected to poverty, and being exposed to sex workers, prostitution, and drug dealers, and kids who had dropped out of high school. And for me, I had never been exposed to that, even when I was in Zimbabwe. So that was shocking. But even in during those times, there was a blessing in it. I came in alignment with a program called Pathways to Education. This is the program that catered for my undergraduate studies. I got a full ride scholarship through them. And it was through them that I also had a mentor and a tutor,
Mm.
so that way I would graduate from high school with high grades and make it to McMaster. And then thereafter, I applied to Windsor University School of Medicine, and I didn't have enough money because they couldn't continue funding for my studies. And so when I made it to Windsor University School of Medicine, I had to start finding other ways of financing for my studies. And one day I was in a hair salon, and the hairdresser was getting my hair done. And for some reason, we started talking about who I was, what my dreams are, what my aspirations are. And I was also carrying a Pathways to Education magazine, and they had highlighted my story on there. And then she took interest in me. And for some reason, I also opened up to her about how I didn't have enough money to go to school. And she said, I'll call you back. I'll talk to my husband about it. And really, she wanted to help me. And I'll never forget the day, Kata, when she called me and she said to me, my husband and I are willing to give you $10,000 to start. That was a huge miracle for me, especially at that time when I was young. I was 22 years old at the time.
Mm.
And but obviously $10,000 wasn't enough. And then a friend suggested that I send my story to Oprah Winfrey, since she's all about empowering the girl child and women through education. So I went on the Oprah Winfrey website, really looking for money to go to school, and there was nothing related to that. The first thing that popped up was, tell us your story, you become what you believe. And those words resonated with me, and I just knew intuitively that I had something special. I had a story to share with the world. And I just typed in at the age of 14. My mother passed away in a tragic accident in Zimbabwe, and I'm studying medical school. And um, so that for me was just being there in that space, surrounded by phenomenal, incredible women such as Oprah Winfrey and other women who had
Mm.
done such great, incredible things in the world, reminded me that I too had something to give to the world. But also, more than anything, reminded me that the pain, that life that I had to go through, the struggles, the challenges, and everything else that I had to go through was launching me into something more. It was reminding me of my higher purpose of using my voice and my story to inspire and to empower. So that's how I came to know who I am.
Mm. I love the fact that, the storytelling, because each of us are storytellers in our own right. Every single one of us. We just use different languages. With Morgan, you're using sound and math, and you do use words. Kellyanne, you're using words and having experienced working with you, vision and images. The heart. And Athabo, your words, all of them seem to bring us to the same place. And the reason why I invited you guys to this space is that everyone's got their own thing. Some people go to a building, and now with COVID-19, we do it through Zoom. They go to church. Some people
Mm.
are, find their way in so many different ways. What I'd love to hear from any one of you, this is open to the floor, is in the midst of COVID-19, because this is another life incident. What could the spiritual meaning be behind this? I have my thoughts on it, which I won't share as yet, but there are silver linings that I hear people speak about, especially in this work, colleagues of mine. There are silver linings around what's happening, but not everybody's ready to talk about that. Would any of you like to take the floor to talk about what could the silver lining be about, around COVID-19?
Well, I'll start.
Yes.
I feel like it's an opportunity to rebuild structures and systems in a way that takes a more united, co-creative view. So moving out of the the power scenario that's going on where it's governments or just a few that are controlling the masses. So this is an opportunity. Transparency is now being shown of proving even more why they don't work. So it's an opportunity for us to come up with, us as a collective, to come up with more solutions, more united solutions for humanity. So when I realized that that's what was happening, I received a download to create a platform for people to broadcast their visions. So visionaries to broadcast their solutions, whether it's in governance or business or leadership or anything like that, and actually open up their solutions to other people and co-create in real time. So I created a platform called Visionary Sessions for people to do that. And the amount of people that have been attracted to that and also feel the calling that they're like, yes, I have an answer. Like I can see, I've got a vision for humanity of how the world can be a better place. And I want to speak up because now I know that I'm actually going to be heard and other people agree with me. And it's a lot of us are getting different downloads in the same field. So I'm going to share my authenticity and my solutions. And then they do that on the platform. And then other people agree. And then they build a community and there's encouragement and empowerment. So that's what has been my journey the last few months and what I'm witnessing.
Beautiful. And powerful. I think that's magnified. I love that. Anything else from Morgan or Nathabo when it comes to um, what you perceive and what you like to speak about around the silver lining around COVID-19?
Right. I feel that, Keter, life is calling each and every one of us to take a pause, to listen, to heal, to look within ourselves, to confront our individual inner demons and collectively as well in terms of the systems in the world. But more than anything, we are healing together collectively, and life is giving birth to a new earth. We're all awakening to a new spirituality as a whole, as we can see that most churches are closing down. And I believe that they're closing down because life is forcing us to go within and to find the God in each and every one of us and to recognize that God is within, not in a building. you know for me, that's what this season is saying to me. That's what this season is revealing to me.
Thank you, Ngabo. And Morgan, you were about to say.
I was going to say, yeah, I believe that everything's a teacher. Everything around us, whether it's positive or negative, they're all teachers. It's a matter of if you're open enough to find the lesson. So here we have COVID-19, and it's and we all are witnessing what it's doing. If you're open enough, because I think that one of the keys is openness, and you can already tell from how we are as humans that very many of us aren't that open, even if we like to believe that we are. But the more open you are, the more messages you receive. So here we have this situation that's happening right now, and right now it's a teacher, and for you it can either be a blessing or it could be a curse. So I choose to see it as a blessing. So here we have COVID-19, and it's a way for us to evolve. So what I've learned throughout my studies that order comes out of chaos. And right now we're going through a chaotic moment and it will lead to order. So we just have to be patient and to keep our eyes open, and also to not look at things, not only to look at the content, but look at the context. And I know the context is very hard to do for most of us, but there's a bigger picture here. And if we keep focusing on the content, we'll never see it. So there in front of us was for us just to open our eyes and open to it and see what you get from it, because everything around us can't allow us to evolve.
Yeah, it's really interesting, the context and the content piece, because many will say that we're spirits here to have a human experience, And regardless of what people's perspective is as to why we're here, and as an individual, what our purpose is, when we allow ourselves to look beyond the emotion, especially what we term as negative emotion of situations, there's such amazing content there. There's such amazing lessons and experience to be had. That term of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, I understand it intimately. And I think any person who has experienced a traumatic event in their lives can understand that. As long as we're still breathing after the incident, we still have opportunity. And now collectively, we can actually understand that. We are moving into a space of being very desensitized to things that happened in different spaces. Oh, that happened across the world. Well, it's not me, and it's not near my house. It's not near my family or my friends. So it's sad, but too bad. Right now, literally with COVID-19, we're all experiencing something so similar. Our ability to empathize, empathy is going up. People are understanding now just what it means to go through this unknowingness, this confusion, regardless of what corner of the planet you're talking about. You can flick on YouTube and see someone speaking about COVID-19 and understand exactly what they're talking about because it's happening here too. This is a prime opportunity for us to look, as Morgan was saying, at the bigger picture, that it's an opportunity for us to put our heads together, like what Kellyanne was speaking of, and coming up with ways of doing things that's different from what it was before. The greed, avarice, and competition that we've all grown up with, that's what we suckled on. We were told that there could only be so many gifted people, so many amazing ideas. If it's too right brain, too creative, it has no place in this world. Now, guess what? Anybody who has a creative, innovative idea of how to do business, how to teach, how to run systems, people are looking towards you now. They want those ideas because we have to figure out how to keep the planet functioning without being in the same space. That was only born of COVID-19. It's been forced because before then, people were told, no, you couldn't work from home. It's not possible. Guess what? It's entirely possible. We see it. So coming out of COVID-19, one of the silver linings I perceive is that we've been cracked open collectively, globally. And that through that crack, the authenticity, the ideas, the passion, the willingness to look at something different, totally different, and shift, a paradigm shift, is now possible. It's feasible. People are willing to look at it. When it comes to the collective, work that you're doing, Kellyanne, and remember, if you could, I'm going to read something from, because we're getting such wonderful messages from, the audience here. From Tracy: technology was dividing us. We were living our lives through text messages and PMs, barely ever talking. Now, technology is bringing us back together and giving us the opportunity to appreciate each other deeply on a soul to soul cellular level. So beautifully said and so true. Can't count the number of times I'll be like, social media, oh my gosh, it's really dividing us and keeping us isolated. Now it's our prime way of connecting. So getting to Kellyanne and that collective work that you're doing, do you see a jump in people's receptivity to that, getting together to create a new way of doing things since COVID-19? Or is it pretty well the same?
Well, just to backtrack on that a little bit,
Sure.
before focusing on the word collective, I feel that there's a receptivity in general. So when you're a visionary and you're a leader, you're always ahead of the times, right? So when you're creating movements or you have a vision, education is a big part because people don't see or they don't get the picture. So you need to explain it and explain it. And I've been doing that for years in conscious business space and leadership, explaining why the current system doesn't work and having to spend 50% of my time doing that and then presenting the solution. So I found that since COVID-19, I just need to say one sentence on why it doesn't work and just move on to the solution because people are more open. And through that openness, the embracing co-creation has become more, people are more open to that. So before we were more in, you know, the scarcity and competition and, you know, I'm doing this and working in silos. So I found that that openness in the space in general is encouraging more co-creation that may have not been there before, and more people are now coming out and saying this is who I am and having the courage and the confidence, and then that's inspiring other people to do it as well. So there's all these people that are realizing they have, you know, something shared and the resonance with each other. So that's creating co-creation because there's more people putting themselves out there. So it's like I feel that the openness is having like this domino effect in so many ways, and co-creation is one of those ways that it's been able to re-energize. So yeah, that's what I'm feeling and seeing
Experiencing?
and experiencing.
Excellent. Natabo, Morgan, would you like to weigh in on that? Have you seen a marked change since COVID-19? I'm sure you have, but pertaining to receptivity to what it is that you speak of. Morgan, I know you've had a following with regards to energy for a good number of years now, and I've always seen it increasing. I've never really seen it lagging. But with regards to COVID-19, have you seen a marked change in receptivity to what you're doing and what you're saying?
I have. One thing I could say is, so I'm trying to find ways to not expose other people. So,
Oh,
so I'm trying to, yeah, I'm just like, how do I word it? Um, I don't know. I never know who's watching, but at my
and this
place
is
of
going on
work,
YouTube.
oh yeah. Oh, so at my place of, at my place of, at the basketball court. I don't know what to. I don't even know what to change it to. But I'll just go with it. Like with my
Yeah.
place of work, it was always I always had a hard time of introducing things like meditation or mindfulness within that establishment. It has always been a challenge. It is not something I really try to fight. I would just abide by the rules and what they wanted. But because of this thing that's all going down, when I brought up the idea again, they were really open to the idea. So it allowed me to reach more people within the community in regards to the benefits of meditation.
Mm,
For myself, and as you know me, Kata, I'm not really much of a big business person.
mm,
Um, you've known me. I've worked on energy for so many years, and there's times where someone wanted it, I just gave it to them because they needed it.
yeah.
Um, but lately, because a lot of people have been saying you need to go out, you need to be more open with this, and more people need to know about this technology, which a lot of people do know about it, but not a lot of people know about energy. But lately, I've been involved with this online platform, which allows people to meditate simultaneously to your music or to your binaural beats or to your brain entrainment. And I've been involved with them for 3 years, but I haven't been using that platform lately until the last 2 weeks, where I said, okay, we need to start doing more of this group meditation thing with people around the world. And so I said, let me see if that platform is still working. And I realized it was still functional. And I've been able to, with a group of us, and people are still being added to that, where we're meditating together every day at 3 o'clock. And we just did one today, actually. And that is something that I probably would have looked into if it wasn't for COVID. So right there, I was able to reach, or we've been able to reach more people who never been exposed to anything like that before. So
Yeah.
it shakes you up. Things like this shakes you up and gets you to try new things and to expand and to evolve and all that. So that's one thing that I've noticed in regards to in the work that I do.
So someone's asking how to get into that group meditation, and before you go there, and if you would share that information, if you're willing, Morgan,
I got to find the link.
I want you guys to know that Morgan and I, Eunergy and True to Soul, have worked together in past. We created um, in a basically a retreat for post-trauma survivors. We did a guided meditation with energy binaural beats in the background, and we'll be doing that again, collaborating. So you'll actually be finding it on the True to Soul platform as well. So Morgan, if you would share that link, that's perfect, and you will actually find it with True to Soul as well,
Mhm.
because the for me, the ability to sit and allow that type of input to come in that brings you to a level to access is so amazing. It is amazing. And doing it collectively, a lot of people, a lot of my colleagues are doing collective work online, similar to what Kellyanne is speaking about. And that magnifies. And each tribe has its own attraction. So it's never just one. It's anything that you feel called to. It may be in a church. Then that's what I say, go to. It may be an online visionary group, then I say go to it. It might be Yinergy, I say go to it. It might be an online motivational talk that's live. That's what taps you in. What I really want to be the outcome of this meeting today, of us getting together today, is understanding it doesn't matter how, it's the doing it that's important. It's the getting it done, because there is a call that's happening right now, and it is COVID-19. It doesn't feel like that's a call. It doesn't feel great to understand that there's pain coming out of the situation, but there's a call to each person that has something to contribute to the world right now. And so whatever space gets you going, you got to make your way there. Thank you, Morgan. He shared the link. Let's see, to all panelists and attendees. So I'm going to copy it and blast it out again just in case. And Nathabo, if you would speak about how your work, your life has changed, receptivity to your message has changed as a result of COVID-19.
Right. For me, Keta, I've always been the weird one, in my
Ah,
family and even among my friends, So I feel these times are actually shaking things up, like the people that are around me, my family and my friends,
yeah.
and they're coming to understand my way of being and my spirituality differently, and in turn, they're also learning new ways of tapping into their own truth, you
Mm,
know and I believe that that's what we're here to do, to open our hearts so that way the light can come in, allowing ourselves to learn from all things and to evolve into a deeper truth about who we are.
mm,
And the other thing that I've noticed as well is I run a young women's mentorship group.
mm,
And sometimes I do share spirituality information with them, really with the sole intention of helping them to tap into who they are in an authentic way.
yes, yes.
And before, for a long time, I struggled with reaching to their hearts, really because of religion. They've always been controlled, and much of these girls are based in Africa.
Mm,
So religion has been one of the things that holds them back
mm, mhm,
from them accessing the truth within them,
mm,
because
mhm,
they have this idea that God is outside of them, God is
mm,
in the church, and truly they believe in that.
mm, mhm,
So they feel that the pastor is more blessed than they are,
mm,
and that in order for them to be holy or considered holy, to do holy work, they have to be in church on Sunday, every Sunday, and sometimes
yeah,
during the week as well. So
mhm,
I would say they have been operating from a place of being a slave to religion.
mm,
So I feel these times are really forcing them to access their own power in a different way,
mhm, mhm,
and they're coming into their own way of understanding who they are.
yeah,
And in the past that wasn't the case. They were not even open enough to listen to what I would be saying.
mm,
So that for me has been a big deal. And I always say the greatest gift that you can give any human being is the ability for them to open their eyes and their heart to the truth within them,
yeah.
because that is our divine guide.
Absolutely. Our roadmap. And by sharing our stories, each of our individual, unique stories, we offer maps for other people, not to tell them where to go, but to say, I went here and it's
Mm,
possible. And I think that's the distinction. When we're all of us teachers, every single one of us, we're teachers by virtue of living our authenticity, just by being it. And we've grown up in this kind of socialized understanding of teaching has to look like this. I stand at the front of the class and you sit there and listen. And,
Mhm.
that's okay. It's been right for the time that it has been. But now we are moving into a space where people are understanding, hey, I have something to say and I have something to share. And is anyone listening? Oh,
Yes.
there's somebody that will listen. And that's what these spaces are for, to let people know, yeah, there's someone that wants to listen to you. Find a way to say your truth. And not everyone says it in the same way. Not everyone says it in words. Not everyone says it through music or art. Some
Mhm.
people just say it by being there and being present. That's a teacher. Because for someone, another person who doesn't know how to be still, doesn't know how to not be distracted, watching that person who can just sit in stillness is a lesson by virtue of them just being. And so I'm really appreciative, as I see we have a few minutes left, that um, yeah, someone says, Peter, yes, there is a new listening that is empowering. Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. And because we've been forced to stay inside or be still, we're discovering that. We're rediscovering it because we had so many distractions. I got to get to work. I got to get this done. I gotta hustle because I got to make this business work. I got to make some money. I got to do this. I got to do this. Well, everything stops. It's like no economy is happening for a good while. So now what do? Like twiddle the thumbs. Oh, I can repair that. I can do this. I can, oh, what do I do? I'm alone with myself. Oh my gosh. Right. So it's been an interesting time because what we were refusing to do, nature, COVID-19 forced us to do, be still with ourselves. And it's not to say now the entire planet is being still with itself, because people, if we're not willing to look at our truth, we will find any distraction. It doesn't matter if it's inside the house or not. But I feel like there's a receptivity to being still and finding tools to excavate and find that authenticity and find that juiciness that we're meant to each offer the world. It's different. It doesn't look like your neighbor. It may sound a little like your neighbor, another business person, another parent, another person out there. It may sound similar, but it's not the same because it's coming out of you. And we each
Mhm.
have life experiences, perspectives, passions, dislikes that make our offerings so unique. It's a fingerprint. We don't have to look anywhere else. All we need to do is look inside, find the tools that help us do that, and then express it. And one thing that Morgan mentioned earlier, Tracy, LOL, I am alone with myself. OMG. Yeah, yeah, that's pretty well what people are feeling. But when it comes to the light and dark of it, we've been really, really trained to run away from pain. And we've been really, really trained to avoid any gifts that might be within that painful experience. And so being able to crack it open, like COVID-19, crack that open and extract the lessons is a real beautiful skill to have, a really beautiful skill. And if you could find spaces like this, doesn't matter where it is, I actually don't care where it is. If it's on the phone with a friend, or if it's online Zoom with people that you know and trust, or it's stuff like this, if you could find people that offer you tools and resources to pull out what feels good to you, what you want to offer the world, help brush that off and polish it off, and then offer it up, that's where you need to go. That's where you need to be. No malarkey, no nonsense, no pretending, no fakeness. Just find the real and offer it up because we're waiting for it. We want it. We want it. Tracy, I actually love being alone with myself. I love quiet and introspection and sitting with me in silence. I've been so grateful for it. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Tracy. And thank you, everyone out there listening. Any like 10-second parting words from any of the panelists before we wrap up? We're on the last minute now.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for having me here, and also to the other panelists. I really, and particularly like everybody, I just really resonate and can feel you all coming from an open heart space. So I really appreciate that presence.
Thank you, Kelly. Morgan, Natabo?
So I'm happy for you having me in this discussion. It's a type of discussion that we need to have more of, and I know it's been happening. Another thing I should have added earlier is the amount of communities that I've been involved with or just been dabbling with that are holding conversations like this through Zoom and through other platforms, which is great. So
Mm,
it needs to continue to happen. So I thank you, Kata, and for everybody on the panel as well. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you, Morgan.
Kat, I just wanted to say thank you for having me.
Mhm.
And thank you, everybody who's tuning in, and to the other panelists as well. And an encouraging word, I just wanted to say we should continue having these conversations at home, because that's how other people can grow and evolve as well into their own truth.
Oh, yes, well said. And thank you for that. This actually will happen again. This topic specifically. There are certain topics that when we do the polls, which by the way, if you haven't, you know, completed the poll, please, I invite you to do that. We always get feedback about this particular topic because people are really searching. And so we will be doing this topic again and having varied perspectives on it so that people can find their space so that they can see themselves in the people who are talking. So thank you so much for coming out. And my pleasure, Francis. Uh, thank you, everybody who's come out. And we're doing this every Friday, so feel free to come back again, different topics. Um, yeah, and that's it. Just remember to be well, be informed, be safe, and be empowered. They're all possible during these times, especially during these times if we do it together. Okay? Blessings to everybody. Take care.